what does paying the ransom and this whole situation mean for the rest of the country? Well, to simply put it, it means that the rest of this country can be at risk for the same exact thing. If it happened there on the East Coast, what do you think it's going to stop it from happening on the West? You saw Colonial Pipelines cave to dark side and pay the ransom in order to have their stuff brought back and to bring back the oil supply. Well, what if these other cyber criminal gangs or whomever else gets the idea to, let's do it again? So with that being said, this cyber attack and the shortages that occurred as a result of it showed a hole in our system in the sense of how our society and how our government will react to it. The way that it was handled in this situation was piss poor. Absolutely, because it became just nothing but a lose-lose situation. People weren't able to go to work because other people were buying up all the gas. People weren't able to get groceries because other people were buying up all the food and everything. Trucks couldn't even have gas to transport food and supplies to different stores and different locations, to different towns and different cities. So different towns and different cities were becoming more limited on resources, attributing to further shortages or exacerbating of what chains they have of supplies. And it's just a cycle of bullshit, and it's just a domino effect that occurs. So moving forward, the fact that this happened once means that it can happen again. So the appropriate response to something like this is brace for it. Obviously, there's only so much that could be controlled, and if it happens, it happens. There's only so much that we could do to stop it from happening. I worked in storage facilities, and a good point that an old client of mine actually made is that it doesn't matter how much stuff you put in the way of a thief. All you're going to do is going to slow them down. They'll always find a way. Same with the cyber attack. They did this on the East Coast. Sorry, I'm having mush mouth. What do you think is going to stop them from doing it on the West Coast, or finding a loophole or hole in the system or some type of back door? And so, with that being said, what should be the appropriate response next time when something like this happens? Ration. So, for example, if it hits the West Coast and it hits like California, Arizona, Nevada, and like all up and down the Western states, what we should do as a result, as a society, so that way we don't have to worry about too much government overreach for the irresponsibility. As a society, we ration, we conserve how much we go out and such things, so forth. And of course, this is asking a lot, because like to an extent, everybody has their right to live their own life and make their own choices. And anybody else trying to stop them in a sense of trying to restrict their rights to do it is absolutely wrong. So it is more so providing incentive in the act, like this is a temporary sacrifice for all of us to later benefit all of us. And by the way, this is how majoritarian politics work. So if another cyber attack or another type of gas shortage happened on the Western states, the responsible thing to do on the societal end is to ration and conserve how much gas we get and what transporting we do. And by doing that, we're not going to have so much of a concern or a fear of the gas shortage becoming too out of control, because we'll allow the supply to catch up with the demand. By lowering the demand, you're going to allow the prices to fluctuate from going high as a result of the shortage to going low, to it's accommodable for the average Joe to be able to get to point A to point B to their job or whatever. So you just ration, conserve, carpool, do now. And then if a cyber attack happened on the West Coast and it also led to food shortages because the trucks couldn't transport the food and supplies, with the food shortages, the other responsible thing is to obviously ration what you get and obviously conserve what you get at home. So if, like with the toilet paper and water, you saw everybody during the pandemic hoard up all the toilet paper and water. It caused the prices for all of it to skyrocket, and it led to a lot of people, like I'm telling you, a lot of people, including my own household, having extreme difficulty not even just trying to find water and toilet paper, but fucking diapers and wipes. Like, I'm not even kidding. So if you ration and you conserve, you're going to allow the food shortages to dwindle as well, because the supply chain is going to be able to catch up with the demand. It's going to be able to catch up what it's lost. Because you also have to remember, there's an entire industry, an entire working class behind the toilet paper brand, behind the water brand. Who do you think is making the stuff? Where do you think the resources are being taken from? A lot of it be non-renewable resources, very limited resources, like toilet paper, for example, because we only have so many trees. And obviously that's a multi-dimensional topic to cover, because there's a lot of other factors that go in. But by rationing and conserving, you're going to limit the extent of the shortages. You're going to help improve it. You're going to allow the farmers, for example, the agricultural industry, the ones that are producing all of the food and supplies for us, you're going to allow them to catch up on their supplies. Because if us, the consumer, the demand is straining the supply chain, the agricultural industry, for example, how are they going to be able to meet with the demand? How are they going to be able to meet the demand under what budget they have, under what resources they have, when it is being strained so much? And you saw that also happen, for example, in Texas during the snowstorm. You saw resources become limited. You saw people panic buying. You saw people hoarding, and it creates a domino effect. And it's a really shitty thing too, because like at the end of the day, I could sit here and tell everybody ration, conserve as much as you want, but at the end of the day, everybody has their own individual right to say, okay, I'll do it, or fuck you, I won't do it, and that's okay. It's their right to do so. And again, it's a shitty thing, but we also can't impede or force others to abide by these things, because then you become the bully and you become the dictator when you start to force people to abide these things and stuff like that. And obviously there are other factors that come into play with that, because there are some situations where it's not actually forcing, but that's where the debate and that's where the actual conversation comes in to understand and differentiate the difference between forcing somebody and just setting something right. But that's why, as a society, as a collective, the gas and food shortages is going to harm all of us. So how do we respond? Well, we all make the sacrifice to conserve and ration, so that way 3 months or 6 months from now, we all don't suffer worse and we're all in a better situation. And again, that's majoritarian politics. That's majoritarian thinking. If we all have to make the sacrifice now, then we all will benefit from it later. And we don't have to worry about too much government overreach. We don't have to worry about all this extra BS that can come into play. Because guess what? History has proven time and time again, it can and will happen. Because as you saw, like I was mentioning with the Arab oil embargo, you had Richard Nixon start to do price regulations on the gas prices. You saw him start to say, okay, you can only get gas on this day out of the week, and then on this other day, and stuff like that. Or between this time frame, you can only get in the morning. Oh, then you can only get in the afternoon. You create too many holes, too many issues. And so, as I just keep on saying with the colonial pipelines, what happened in the eastern states with the shortages, if they would have, rather than hoard and panic bought, if they would have rationed, conserved, and act responsibly and had some fucking common sense, then the people would have been better off. And again, that will apply to like any future situations. If another cyber attack or just something else completely different, whether it's a natural disaster or something like that led to these issues that happened on the West Coast, the responsible thing for us all to do is to ration and conserve in order to benefit us all.